Ever wondered what the world would look like if the Roman Empire never fell? Close your eyes for a second. Imagine a world where gladiators might be our biggest sports stars, where Latin isn't a dead language but the global tongue spoken in cafes from Londinium to Alexandria, and where majestic aqueducts, not sprawling freeways, crisscross our landscapes. It sounds like science fiction, but what if history had taken just one different turn? Let's dive into a timeline that never was, exploring a world shaped by an eternal Rome. The year is for 76 AD in our history. This is when the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was deposed, marking the symbolic end of an era. But in our alternate timeline, things go differently. Perhaps a series of brilliant, far-sighted emperors managed to reform the military and the economy. Maybe they successfully integrated the Germanic tribes, turning potential invaders into loyal citizens. Or perhaps a technological breakthrough, like an early form of industrialization, gave the empire the edge it needed to survive and thrive. Whatever the reason, the legions hold the line, the Senate continues to convene, and the eagle of Rome never falters. So, fast forward a few centuries, Europe isn't a fragmented continent of warring kingdoms. Instead, it's a unified, stable entity under Roman rule. There's no dark age. The knowledge of the classical world isn't lost and rediscovered. It's continuously built upon. Libraries like the one in Alexandria are not just preserved. They flourish, becoming centers of innovation. Imagine Roman engineers, with their unparalleled skill in concrete and hydraulics, developing steam power centuries before James Watt. Picture steam-powered triremes patrolling the Mediterranean and rail lines connecting Hispania to Syria, all built on the foundations of Roman roads. Science and technology would be centuries ahead. What about the Americas? In our timeline, Columbus, sailing for Spain, stumbles upon the New World in 1492. But in a world dominated by Rome, would this even happen? It's likely. The Roman spirit of exploration and conquest would be insatiable. Roman galleons, perhaps larger and more advanced than the caravels of our history, would eventually cross the Atlantic. The encounter would be monumental. How would Roman legions, with their disciplined formations and steel armor, fare against Aztec jaguar warriors or Inca armies? It would be a clash of worlds on an epic scale, likely resulting in the Americas being incorporated as new provinces, Provincia Nova Terra. The gold and resources would flow back to Rome, funding even grander monuments and further expansion. The political landscape would be unrecognizable. The concept of the nation-state, born from the ashes of the Roman Empire in our timeline, might never emerge. People's primary identity wouldn't be French, German, or English, but simply Roman. The world would be governed by a complex bureaucracy managed from the Palatine Hill, with provincial governors reporting to the emperor. Of course, this doesn't mean it would be a utopia. Civil wars, power struggles between ambitious generals, and revolts in distant provinces would still be a constant threat, just as they were in the original empire. The scale, however, would be global. Imagine a civil war not just for control of Italy, but for the entire planet. Let's talk about daily life. You'd wake up in your insula, or if you're wealthy, your villa. You'd speak a form of evolved, modern Latin. The news, perhaps delivered on printed papyrus scrolls, would detail the latest chariot race results from the Circus Maximus or the progress of a new campaign in the far-off lands of Sina or China. Entertainment would be grand. The Colosseum might host holographic gladiator battles, and theaters would stage timeless plays by Sophocles alongside new works from playwrights across the empire. Religion would also be different. Without the collapse of the West, would Christianity have spread in the same way? Perhaps a unified Roman state would have either suppressed it or adopted a more syncretic version, blending it with the traditional Roman pantheon. Maybe Mithraism or Saline Victus would have become the dominant faith. By the time we reach the equivalent of our 21st century, this Roman Imperium Aeternum would be a global superpower unlike anything we can imagine. Its cities would be marvels of architecture, blending ancient aesthetics with futuristic technology. Think towering skyscrapers shaped like classical columns, with flying vehicles zipping between them. The internet, or the Redi Globus, would connect every citizen, but it would be heavily monitored by the imperial government to ensure stability and loyalty. Citizenship, the cherished civis Romanus sum, would be a prized possession, granting rights and privileges across the globe. But would this world be better? It's a tough question. We might have avoided the devastating wars that shaped our modern world. We might have reached the stars centuries earlier, planting the Roman eagle on the moon and Mars, but this progress would have come at a cost. The diversity of cultures and languages that make our world so rich would have been subsumed into a single, dominant Roman culture. The ideals of democracy, individual liberty, and self-determination, which blossomed during the Enlightenment in our timeline, might never have taken root in the rigid, hierarchical structure of the empire. It would be a world of order, stability, and incredible technological advancement, but perhaps one with less freedom and less variety. Exploring these alternate histories isn't just a fun thought experiment. It helps us appreciate the specific, fragile chain of events that led to our own world. The fall of Rome, as disruptive as it was, paved the way for the Renaissance, the age of exploration, and the scientific revolution. It created the world we know today, with all its flaws and all its wonders. The shadow of a never-ending Rome is a fascinating reminder that history is not a straight line, but a branching path of infinite possibilities. What do you think? Would you trade our world for an eternal Roman Empire? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. If you enjoyed this exploration of what could have been, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our next dive into the great what-ifs of history. Until next time, stay curious.